cover up. I think maybe certain crimes the people above don't want to be solved, and this could be one of them. Hello,
Mrs. Johnson. When you go to City Hall, have you talked to the district attorney? Have you talked to the district attorney of your county, the man who would prosecute?
We did in the beginning, but I haven't talked to no one in over years.
Let me ask you, what did the district attorney last say to you? What was his last words to you when you asked if there's going to be an indictment or a grand jury?
Well, I didn't ask him that. His last statement to me, we were inside the courthouse doing a civil disobedience. That's where I seen him at.
Okay. Have you ever discussed the murder or the death of your son with the district attorney of that county in context of bringing charges against someone you believe murdered your son?
Those people in this town do not want to have anything to say to us, nor do with us. So our attorney have to use paperwork to do what we have to do, what we need to be done. Okay, there's no talking with this. They closed the case. They want this case to go away, but it's not. There's no talking to those people. It's just no talking to them.
I understand.
So what are we going to keep harassing them about this? We're going to do what you got. Everything has got order. That's what we're doing, taking order in steps.
Have you talked to your congressman, to a state representative? Have you talked to anybody in government outside of your county? I mean, you have John Rogers, a very, very, very famous civil rights leader who marched with Dr. Martin Luther King. Have you gone to Washington to explain Kendrick's case to him?
We have went. I have traveled so many places.
Have you met with John Rogers?
People. I don't remember.
Well, you would remember. He's one of the most famous people in the world. Have you considered Tyrone, Tim? Have you guys considered contacting John Rogers, one of the most famous people in the whole United States of America, from Georgia?
Not that I'm aware of. John Rogers.
Got to round it up. You got to put pressure. As long as you sit on a street corner and complain, I'm sorry, they're not going to listen to you. Let me tell you something. I was in the United States Army, and I could complain all day long about something happening. But if I wrote a letter to my congressman, boy, the general himself would come down and kiss my tuchus. You have to put pressure on these people.
Okay, one second, guys. 1 second.
We have sent several letters, and I don't see it sitting on my behind on the corner. Right. I see it making those people uncomfortable. That's what I'm doing, and I'm going to stay on that corner, because staying on that corner lets them know Kendrick is getting justice, and we are going to stay on that corner to let them know that it will not be swept under the rug. So I'm not sitting on my behind. I'm making a statement.
Let's 1 second. Let's just get this right. Let's just get this right, shall we? Right. The only people are really looking bad here are those that are refusing to allow these bells to answer the questions that are on the tip of everybody else's tongues. Right. And if only they would have the courage to come out and just answer those questions, not to a selected interviewer that's been provided by the by the FBI, but to people who want to pursue the truth. Right? If they were to come forward, if they were man enough, if they were brave enough to come and just answer the basic questions that people are dying to ask, that people are dying to hear the answers to, if they can actually come in front of us and really swear, right, look us in the eye and tell us they know nothing, they did nothing, and they have nothing to do with this, and they're prepared to tell us where they were and what they were doing and how they managed to disappear from the CCTV seconds before Kendrick entered into this so-called match and his life was lost. If they can tell us where they were while Kendrick was inside that match struggling for breath, apparently, right, suffocating, right, if they can tell us where they were and what they were doing while all this was going on, if they are man enough to come and face those questions, then I'm prepared to listen. There's a show right here that says, here's a platform. You've got a perfect opportunity to answer those questions. You don't even have to go and answer them to another interrogation officer. Just answer them to us. Answer the questions that the people of the United States of America are dying to hear the answers to. Surely, if you was the father of those children, you'd say, kids, go clear your name, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. Let me just jump in real quick. That was an excellent point, Brother Curvin. Let me just once again, brother, Mr. David, Dr. David. I know you didn't mean no disrespect by what you said, but to this mother, that what I'm saying to you is that if this mother has got to stand on the corner, that's what she got to do. When you can't do what I'm saying is that you can't. I mean, I'm just trying to bring this real quick. Is that we can't criticize this woman for standing on the corner. This mother who lost her son. If a bed grabs your child, damn it! If you got to bite into the backside of that bed, you gonna bite into the bed. Do whatever you're gonna do to get your child loose from that. So if this mother feels that this is what keeping her son memory alive. If she got to stand in that corner and protest, she got to do that. Now, Dr. David, my good friend, since you had access and you know how to write the letters when you was here and you said you know how to get them down, won't you come and you write the letter?
I was just going to say.
And you come and send the letter and then you go ahead since you know how to do it.
Tyrone, I was just going to say that I am willing to come down there and stand or sit with Mrs. Kendrick, Mrs. Johnson, because I'm proud of her doing that. But what I meant to say, and forgive me, it didn't come out right. What I wanted to say is that there are other ways we can do it too, and that's one very good way. And I want to say that I would be happy to write that letter for Mrs. Johnson, and I would be happy to come down to Georgia and stand on that sidewalk with her and make those people feel uncomfortable. What she's doing is in the finest tradition of Mahatma Gandhi and Dr. Martin Luther King, nonviolent protest to the extent that those people feel so shameful and guilty, they actually do something that's right. And Ms. Johnson, I didn't mean to say you were sitting on your backside at all. I didn't mean that. You wouldn't be on this show if you were doing that. I hope you accept my apology for it coming out wrong.
Apology accepted, because I know that my co-partner and my co-host would never mean to offend. Now, let me just come in here for a very quick second. Yeah, come on, Tim, come in.
Oh, yeah, real quick. Every anonymous operation I've ever worked on, pretty much, toward the beginning of the operation and all through it, we send out mass PR to media, we send it to senators, we send it to Congress, we send it to every politician, and sometimes the media will pick it up, but generally the politicians, unless they can use it for their political purposes, for their own personal gain, they never care. They don't respond. They're all a bunch of scum, in my opinion. So these things have been done. It's just you have to realize our government doesn't care. They only care if they can benefit from it.
Okay, well, listen. The bottom line is we are totally aware of and I can understand your frustration there, David, and what you're trying to come with. But I also sympathise with Mrs. Johnson's position even worse, because here's a mother who's been told that her son's dead, and there's an argument to suggest that that there are two suspects who are the main suspects because. The autopsy and the state of his body doesn't line up with the official release of how he died, and there are a lot of rumours and things being said in and around the school and around the friends circle, suggesting that there was an altercation that took place. There's mention of this girl and this party where the Bells confessed while intoxicated or whatever of being responsible for Kendrick's death, and how that was supposedly supposed to have taken place. And there's all of this stuff going up, and then from out of nowhere, this investigation is shut down. Now, bearing in mind that we talked about this very angle on last week's show with the systemic racism issue, when we was asking both Alex and Justin Powers, how it felt like when the bullies were bullied. In other words, here's an officer who probably has a line of an investigation as to who was possibly the culprit for a particular crime, and then the FBI, the bigger bullies, come down and say, we're shutting this down, you ain't going no further with this. And there you have the victim's family who are left with multiple questions unanswered. Now, this is the circumstance that we're faced with right here, because here we have Jacqueline Johnson, who's been told that her son's dead, and she's hearing all of these rumors about who these suspects are, who the main suspects are, under very suspicious circumstances. Those questions are not answered, and without no explanation whatsoever, the entire inquiry and investigation, which was leading towards that suspicion and those suspects, are just removed from the state of play. And so therefore, you're pursuing truth, but without the real elements. So it's like, I don't know how else I can put it, but, here you are looking at an investigation, and there's the murderer over here, but you can't ask him if he did it, you can't find out from him whether he did it or not, you can't investigate, you can't interrogate, you can't ask no questions, they're just removed from play, and you've now got to look at everybody else as to where your culprit might come from. But they're not going to come from there, because until those questions are answered, until the bells answer those questions, until we're satisfied as to the outcome of whatever role play they might have had in Kendrick Johnson's death or an altercation that may or may not have taken place, we cannot rest. We cannot move forward from this, because at the minute everybody is focusing, and unfortunately they're making it worse, because they're making everybody focus on the bells, because the bells are yet to answer the question. If they would just come out and answer the question, and we can prove, or it can be proven without a shadow of a doubt, right, that they probably had nothing to do with it, then maybe we could be. But I'm with Tyrone on this. Only Miss Johnson and the Lord himself can tell me that the bells had nothing to do with the death of Kendrick Johnson. There is something very fishy going on here, and for some reason, the father of these two boys, who is an FBI agent, is refusing law to take place, and the authorities that employ him and take the taxpayers' money in order to employ him are refusing the public access to investigate the death of an individual, and leaving us with many, many questions unanswered. And surely that is where we need to be directing all of our attention and all of our focus on. And what Miss Johnson is doing on the corner of her street is keeping the name of Kendrick Johnson alive. Is that a fair assessment, Mrs. Johnson?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Now I also know that there are some questions that you can't answer, and I'm not going to press you to answer. But is there anything else that you want to bring to light at this particular moment in time as to where you think the investigation could have gone, where it should have gone, or where did it fall down?
Well, it fell down when Kendrick was first killed. Mm-hmm. But we've been bringing it up. We're making progress. It's up the ladder. My attorney is still working every day, all day long, and we're still going to continue to fight for justice for Kendrick. We're waiting for the Department of Justice to make their decision. But while waiting, because we're glad to have those extra set of eyes, but while waiting, we're still doing our own investigation.
So why in looking at what do we do now and where is this going now? Why is everybody expecting the family to come up with the evidence that will lead to either a prosecution against suspects? Why is it the family's responsibility to do all this? Surely, Dr. David, that should be up to law enforcement and the DA.
I asked Mrs. Johnson about her relationship with the district attorney, and because he's the one who would bring the case to the grand jury for indictment. And from what I gather, she has no advocate in the district attorney's office. And as I understand it, and Ms. Johnson, please correct me if I'm incorrect, the case is closed in the eyes of the police and the DA. They've ruled it was an accident. No one was responsible. And she's left to grieve over that situation, knowing it's not the case. It's a complete cover-up in her mind and in the mind of many others. And certainly the least we can say is it wasn't fully resolved by the forensic evidence. And I think Tyrone supports that with the organ and other evidence. And I think that our other guest, Anonymous Tim out there, has made it very, very clear that it's a cover-up. So with all these things combined, the question is, why is the district attorney's office refusing to meet with an advocate? Why is a lawyer, a public defender, not helping? And that's the role of the district attorney, really, in a death case. But, even, and I don't want to get on religion here because, Carvin, you know it better than I do, but even in the Jewish Bible, there's the case of the fellow who came into a village and he left and he died. And God made everyone in the village go down to the creek, kill an animal, and wash their hands in the blood and swear that they had no part in the murder. And that is a fundamental aspect of justice, to make sure no one is involved. And that's where we come up with the tradition, never leave someone unescorted. Someone comes to your home, you walk them back home. And when that man left the village, he died. And this boy, Kendrick, young man, went to school, as his mother said, and she expected him to be safeguarded. She expected him to be protected in a safe environment of learning and friendship and socialization. He was popular and good looking, the object of envy and jealousy of others. And he came back to her in a body bag, and then he was buried without his vital organs and stuffed with newspapers like some kind of a wild animal. Now the district attorney has no relationship with her. The FBI relationship with local judges calls them all to recuse themselves. The police and the sheriff have united together in a bond that appears to be a conspiracy against justice itself. And when we put all these things together, my heart goes out not only to the victim, Kendrick, who hopefully is with God now, but to his mother and his father and his sister and all of those who loved and admired him. And it seems to me that until justice is done here, a plague will be residing in that community, and it will be a grave injustice, not only to that community and to the family, but to all of Americans. And I'm going to say now again, if Mrs. Kendrick, Mrs. Johnson, or Tyrone, you both know my email. I'm on Twitter, David Romay, PhD. I will be happy to write a blistering letter to as many people as we have to. I will even make phone calls in your behalf. We will see to this, and we will make a stink about this, and we will see where it goes from there.
Thank you, David. Going on to Tim. What are Anonymous's plans to support Miss Jackie and the hashtag Kendrick Johnson movements in going forward at this point, with most of the doors seem to be closing very fast in their faces?
Yeah, I mean, as usual, it's awareness. Try to just get people involved and get other activists moving and leak what we can leak and try to keep the info flowing as much as possible. But I mean, to kind of go with what you guys, I wouldn't care if Mrs. Johnson and the Lord said it wasn't murder. I would need to see some solid evidence. It's just too unbelievable a case that this wasn't murder. I mean, this is clearly a murder investigation, and we need to keep awareness going. You know, if people forget we don't have support, that means that they could sweep it under the rug. As long as people make noise, it's really hard. It makes it really hard for them.
Tyrone, is there anything out of the autopsy or anything out of the way that Kendrick's body was treated, handled, mishandled, that can help the family in the pursuit of justice?
You know, the unfortunate thing here, Brother Curvin, is that the father was the father works for the FBI. I think, you know, Mother Johnson is, like I said, man, I've been through this. I've set mothers and you know, that have been, you know, violent children have been violently murdered. Be tough because the FBI, they have the government on wall of silence up that trickles down to the GBI, who got the blue wall of silence up. The people that normally would help people and such in Mother Johnson case will give them help, but they are the perpetrators. So the doors of justice for her are fastly closing, and so the government is making it appear that this young man would jump up on it once again into a mat with his weight would have brought him down that mat down alone. But this is the same government, the FBI, the same government here in America that made you think that Oswald was the one that killed John F. Kennedy, made us think that one man killed Martin Luther King, made us think that the same ones that went overseas and killed Gaddafi and as well as Saddam Hussein. And so America has the way of making you they are tricksters. They'll make you think and make you believe. So what they did was, as I'm going to close out, is that they making us think that this young man died that way, and it's like he's nothing but a little boy. He just, he wasn't going to be nothing in life. Nobody's going to miss him. Just his mother, she's going to cry a little bit, but she's going to get on over it. But the FBI is never going to give this woman justice. And the fact of the matter is that the people in the community is not going to stand up, because once you stand up against a powerful white structure such as the American government, you're going to lose your job, you're going to lose your income, you're going to lose your benefits, and everything else that's associated with that. Now, and what I would like to say to Mother Johnson, can you hear me, Mother Johnson?
Yes, I can hear you.
I want to say to you, Mother Johnson, that I'm there for you, and hopefully I will get to come down to Georgia and meet you in person. I'm rallying with you all the time, every time. I'm going to be grinding with you from henceforth. And I want to say to you that Frederick Douglass said that power concedes nothing without a demand, right? And he also said, well, there's no struggle, there's no progress. So what we're saying here, Mother Johnson, that we're going to stand with you today. And like I said, I'm willing to come down to to Georgia and fight for justice against these wicked and evil law enforcement officers. We want the murderers of Kendrick Johnson. We want them arrested on sight. We want the conspirators arrested, the ones that looked out when this brother was being murdered. We want them arrested on sight. We want the medical examiner arrested for false testimony. We want the judges arrested for being a conspiracy with the law enforcement. And Ms. Johnson, we want you to know that your son was murdered, but he was a fighter. Yeah. He fought hard to the very end. And he was planted in that mat, and the people that killed him are still walking around here. So since Kendrick Johnson fought to the end, Mother Johnson, I'm going to fight with you to the end, even if it cost me my life.
Amen and hallelujah. Tim, you just wanted to come in with something very quickly there?
Yeah, I just wanted to say when people need to understand when we say cover up or conspiracy, all that means is they're trying to cover something up or conspire to do something. It's not some giant tinfoil hat, everyone's involved kind of thing. It's more like an FBI guy who knows a cop personally saying, hey, do me a favor right here. And, it's a professional courtesy, and cops do this all the time. This is how corrupt they are, and this is how corruption works. It's not some big giant FBI guys and men in black and anything. It's just a couple of buddies covering up each other's little mishaps, or big mishaps in this case. So yeah, I don't want people to think it's some big giant crazy thing. This is a common everyday occurrence.
As we look at some of the questions, such as how much did that mat weigh, and what was Kendrick's weight? Could that possibly been able to withstand his weight as he climbed it, entered into it without it falling down? How was it strapped down, and what would have been the force in it falling, and how would it have been possible for a shoe to become stuck, and was it feasible for the basketball team playing nearby, or for that matter any bystander, to miss the fall or Kendrick's presence during the suffocation, assuming his death occurred as it was claimed? And do the forensics and the coroner's report line up with the facts of the case as presented? If not, how so? Would someone of Kendrick's size and weight have reasonably managed to suffocate without partially unrolling or otherwise disrupting that mat? And would they have likely made audible noise despite potential muffling by the mat? And when you think about what would be a professional opinion, or even a personal opinion regarding the manner of the death, I think every single one of us would stand here and say, there's just something that's not quite right with that picture. I'd like to believe that as we've unraveled this tonight, with the help and support and the presence of Miss Jackie Johnson, I hope that you've been pleased with what we've been able to present in the name of Kendrick Johnson tonight. I want to leave a few words just for you, Mrs. Johnson, so that you could say something as to what message you'd want to send out there as the mother of Kendrick Johnson.
I'd like to say thank you for allowing me to be on this platform, but I would like to let everybody know that I will never, ever give up the fight for justice for my baby. I don't care who talks about me, how nobody feels. And if you're a mother or you're a father out there and you know something ain't right, something that happened to your child, you stand up, you fight, you be a bold soldier and don't give up because of the talk, the he say, she say. I am Kendrick Johnson, and I want to let the world know that KJ life matters.
You know, here's the thing, Dr. David. Yeah, absolutely beautiful. We absolutely take our hats off to you, Miss Jackie. We sympathize with you, we empathize with you, we pray with you, we stand with you. And this show, Issues Today, will walk all the way with you and give you every opportunity and any opportunity you wish to revisit and rechannel and even reschedule another show where we can update at any time that you so wish. It was an honor and a privilege to have you on this particular show. But Dr. David, as we've done over a year and a half now of these police brutalities, unlawful killings, we've heard some of the most atrocious stories known for any family. What words of comfort or advice would you offer Jackie and her family right now as they climb this unbearable mountain that seems to be the dragon of the FBI and the authorities kind of ganging up together to protect what appears to be the main suspect, the sons of this FBI officer? What can we say to support her in this time?
Well, it reminds me, when I was in school, I had to memorize something from Thomas Jefferson on justice. And it ties in our American history with our faith in God. And if I remember it correctly, it goes, I tremble for my country when I reflect that God is just, that his justice cannot sleep forever, that considering numbers, natural means only, a revolution of the wheel of fortune, an exchange of situation is among possible events, that it may become probable by supernatural interference. The Almighty God has no attribute which can take side with us in such a contest where the justice for those whom we love is at hand. And that's what I say, that with a belief in God, a belief in justice, the fortitude that Mrs. Johnson shows, and I can only pray that my mother would be as strong, with the passion of Tyrone, the intelligence and hard work of Anonymous, and with you, Kervin, who reveal every week on this incredible, tremendous, and stupendous radio show the injustices that we face in a society that has not matured from its primal racial nature. With all of us together, we can hopefully think about this, not only specifically for Mrs. Johnson's son Kendrick, but for our nation and world as a whole.
Well, you know, again, I'd like to thank each and every single one of you for appearing on this show. Tim, once again, thank you for representing Anonymous. And we would like to thank Anonymous for all the hard work that they do in keeping the names of these hashtags alive, because the hashtag is not who they are. It is just an identity that allows people to be able to latch onto each particular individual and get to know more about what's going on about those particular deaths and lives of those families that are involved in it. Tyrone, absolute awesome. In fact, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart and your passion in coming up and stepping up and supporting Miss Jackie the way that you have. I look forward to working with you again on many more projects, which I believe we do, and I believe we will. I think, between all of us, there's a journey that's just beginning, and we're still only at the very beginning, at the very tip of the iceberg. And Miss Jackie, I cannot take my hat off enough to your bravery and your courage, standing up the way that you have, against all the odds, bearing in mind that the weight of the FBI and all the law enforcement together have just closed in your face the only avenue for pursuit of truth and justice for your son. But there you stand, day in, day out, week in, week out, keeping his name alive. We 100% support you. We stand with you. We thank you, and we look forward where we will come together again and share in the good news that is justice has been achieved for Kendrick Johnson. Because where there is a God, there is a way, and I believe in him, the Almighty God. Thank every one of you for joining us today, and I think this is where we say we're out of here. We look forward to meeting up with you again. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
World Jam Global Radio. This is clarity.
Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Back in the day, I didn't really care about the system. It was all about survival. It was do or die. I had too many rivals. I was too young and foolish to stay in school. I learned my lessons in the streets. There was not a man I couldn't beat. I was good with my hands and very quick on my feet. I was swimming in women. I had girls all over the street. I was getting money. Life was so sweet. Now things have changed. The whole game has been rearranged. I'm a changed man. Don't need no gun in my hand. It ain't about being no gangster. Life is too short to spend it all in jail. Trying to cope with this living hell. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime.
Are you ready? Are you
World Jam Global Radio. This is clarity.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
It's time for your new DJ here on World Jam Global Radio. As you know, World Jam Global DJs transmit from around the world. All viewers, please wait 30 seconds after this transmission. Then press play for your new DJ.
World Jam Global Radio. This is clarity.